We live in a time where masculinity is shamed, and men don't know what it means to be a man. As a pastor and counselor, I've spent the better part of my life equipping and training others. My goal with this show is to translate my hard-earned experience into tools and tactics to help you become stronger as a man. This is the BraveCo podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bellet.
All right, well, welcome back to the BraveCo podcast. This week, I have one of my best friends, Cole Zick, and
what's up, fellas?
Y'all should know Cole by now. He's been on here before, and we've just done so much stuff together with the BraveCo conference last year. We're currently planning out our 2021. We
were just looking at 2021 documents.
That's why, yeah. 2023 BraveCo conference, which is June 21st through the 23rd.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we'll have some links.
Getting very excited.
We'll have some links for that coming up here shortly so that guys can register. But right now we're planning it. Anyways, I'm bringing Cole on the podcast like once a month here because we just want to be able to dive into topics that are important to men and important to us. And I think there's probably really no one that I like to talk more about this stuff with than you, Cole. So basically,
because I'm really messed up and willing to share all of them.
Yeah. Out of all my friends, I tallied, he's got problems. Let's bring him in here.
You know your strengths and you just lead into them.
Hopefully you know your weaknesses.
Hopefully you do. Maybe I'd have more strengths if I knew my weaknesses.
Yeah, you probably would. Well, today we're going to talk about navigating hard seasons in marriage.
Yep.
But this also, it'll work out in life too.
Yeah,
so if you're not married, like don't check out because this is just it. And I think part of why we're talking about this subject is, one, I've just been through tough things. I'm laughing because the load of stuff that I've gone through in marriage, from losing my marriage, right?
Yeah.
To like nervous breakdowns and stuff like that is just, I've been through a lot.
That's the nice thing about being your friend.
Yeah.
No matter what I bring, you've went through worse.
Yeah, it is really funny. My friends go, well, I always feel bad until I think about you. And then I go, oh,
I'm doing great.
But if Jay can do it.
Man, I'm doing awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they call and go, how do I do this? What do I do? Yeah.
Yep, that's true. But I can attest.
Yeah. And here's the thing is we don't think about it like this growing up. Like we don't typically think, man, I got to have a plan. I got to have a plan for hard times, or I got to have a real plan for being resilient, like building resilience inside of me, growing my capacity as a man. We don't think about that a lot. And mostly because, well, at least how I grew up, I watched my parents have some hard times, but I didn't have like these crazy hard times. And not everyone was like that, of course. So lots of guys were, abused, didn't have dads, all that kind of stuff. So I get it. But we don't typically think like life's going to be like this.
Yep.
But the truth is like, there is no way to have a healthy marriage without having a real plan.
Totally.
For navigating hard times. Because the only way to have fun, healthy, whole, like beautiful times in marriage is to navigate through hard times.
Yeah.
And
otherwise you have, it feels fake and shallow. Like, I know people that just try to avoid the pain of the hard time.
Yeah.
The problem is you never have deep, real connection then.
It's true. Like think about when you first got married, right? When Lauren and I first got married, we got married and Lauren became instant mom.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you share a little bit about you.
Yeah, like overnight.
Overnight, right?
Yeah.
So we went on our honeymoon. I'm laughing so hard right now. Looking back, we go on our honeymoon, right, to Hawaii. We have this incredible time. And
played Monopoly a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah. No sex, but the beach was amazing.
Yeah, beach and Monopoly. Yeah, some cards.
And then we get back home. The minute we get inside the house, the kids are like, Mom, Dad, right? Calling her mom.
That quick.
Like instant.
Wow.
And so now all of a sudden she has the weight and responsibility of being mom. Yep. And she went from being single 25 years of singleness, doing whatever you want. And then overnight, right, she has a responsibility of a 13-year-old and 11-year-old and a 8-year-old or whatever, if the ages aren't perfect. But I mean, you get the point, right? Like she has all this responsibility. She walks into, I have to create a schedule. I got to create dinners for these kids.
Right.
Like there's no...
Like all the other moms got to warm up. They got 9 months of mental preparation. Yeah. They got emotional preparation. And then it slowly built. And she's just, it's like taking a frog and tossing them in boiling water.
Like right away.
Yeah.
And the amount of, stress and tension that puts on her, but then puts on me.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, our kids were in very challenging times because all the divorce stuff, right? Like all the stuff sharing kids back and forth and kids working through pain. And that first year, you know, my daughter just had such a challenging time. She was so young, right? Oh, she was 9. So yeah, she just had or maybe 10, such a hard time, internal struggles going on. And so it was like, man, what do you do when your kids aren't doing good and just so much pressure, right?
Totally.
And the only way, but think about it like this, right? Like the only way to have a really enjoyable marriage is to be able to work through that stuff.
Yep.
Because you can't avoid it. If it was just her and I, without the kids, without that extra pressure,
yep,
it's like, well, we come home from Hawaii and we just kind of continue dating.
Yeah.
In marriage, right?
But
like
you guys didn't get that.
You didn't get that. And listen, without kids, marriage is not easy.
Right. With kids, it's dang near impossible.
No, but it throws this complexity into it. And I think so many people, I heard this quote the other day, people aren't falling out of love. You don't fall out of love, you fall out of connection.
Yeah, that's really good.
Like not fall, like you
drift
get
out.
disconnected.
You make choices that pull you away.
And then you don't know how to keep that connection.
Yeah.
Well, dude, who the heck taught you how to be connected in conflict?
Yep.
Who taught you how to connect in hard times?
Yeah.
And man,
good.
when you look at like people who live really happy, healthy, whole lives, like I can think of a couple. I can think of like, you know, Bill, and I think of like Danny Silk, right? When I look at Danny,
totally,
like I'm smiling and I think about Danny, I'm like, oh, he's got a happy life. Danny's story, which, sorry, Danny, if you're watching this, I'm telling your story, was marriage sucked.
Yeah.
Marriage was so tough. And at one point, like there was so much conflict between him and Sherry. They were just like about to explode, you know, like that's their starting point.
Yep.
Their starting point together is we come from two dysfunctional backgrounds. Danny's background was so dysfunctional.
Yeah.
You know, he had just a ton of different men in and out of his life. And he shared that before in this podcast. I'm not like airing out his laundry, but it's like you take these two people who have really dysfunctional pasts and you put them together and we somehow think like that's going to
this will make a healthy future.
Yeah. And it's all just going to be easy.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, in order to have a real happy, healthy marriage and life, just life, forget even marriage, you have to be really resilient.
Yep, it's true.
And you have to, at some point, you have to think through like, can I handle tough things?
Yep.
And how do I get to the point where I can handle tough things?
Yep.
What was it like for you and Kate?
So we've been married 17 years. She didn't come home to 3 kids.
Yeah. So it must have been a cakewalk.
Yes, cakewalk, super easy for her. And she's married to me. So,
bro,
yeah, that made it really easie. So, yeah, I mean, we got married young. We were married at 21 and 22.
Yeah.
You know, we lived in Sacramento, made, I think, like $34,000 a year or something like that.
Bro,
So I think.
What year was that?
2006.
Okay.
So it's still like.
Yeah, you're on the poverty line.
Yeah, I mean, it still was not a lot of money for back then even, right?
No.
So, but we didn't care. You know, it was
Right.
the two of us. We were in this tiny little apartment. We bought a futon for $200 that I had to glue together every 6 months because it was wood and it fell apart. And we got our dining room table for free and our bed for free, and it just, none of it mattered.
Yeah.
Right? Like we were just in love and we got to come home to each other. And yeah, I think, you know, our first, this is pretty, you know, we share this a lot on, you know, in different areas with Moral Revolution, but She had quite a bit of trauma from her past that was unresolved. And so the tension in the beginning part of our marriage was lack of ability to connect.
Just like
intimacy.
trauma with her parents, or?
Sexual stuff. She was sexually active in like 12 years old, 7th grade.
Yeah.
And so, she didn't find the Lord even until she was 16 or 17.
Right.
Between her sophomore and junior year. So she had 4 years of basically the way she would describe it is oral sex with countless people, doesn't know how many or the names, and was high and drunk most weekends.
Holy smokes.
So Kate's got, and then she gave her life to the Lord at a summer camp and all in. But at 16 or 17, doesn't know anything about soul ties and counseling and that type of stuff. She did what she could with the knowledge that she had at each step of the way, and we get married and realized first few years, like we were probably having sex every other month.
Your first 2 years?
Yeah, we didn't have it on our honeymoon.
No way.
Yeah, I don't think we probably even had sex till maybe 2 weeks in.
Hold on.
You didn't know this?
Bro, maybe I knew this.
But it's hitting different right now.
I did not remember it. Yeah. Okay, so can we talk about that? Can we talk about your honeymoon night?
Yeah.
So, I'd imagine you grew up like every other guy thinking.
Oh, Jay, I couldn't wait. I thought God owed. I felt like God owed
crazy.
me a porn movie, and I'd never even seen one. Like I've never even seen one, but I just thought, well, I've never been with anybody.
Yeah.
I've waited till this moment. I'm 22. I don't know anybody that's 22.
You haven't had sex before.
Hadn't even seen pornography before.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, God owes me. Like. What's probably going to happen is the room is going to turn into heaven, and this is like my expectation, right? And
so
I'm going to have
an
orgasm that has never been experienced before is my expectation.
Had you masturbated before?
No, never.
No way.
I've never masturbated, never looked at porn, never been with, Caitlin's the only one I've touched, Jay.
Okay, I'm sorry guys. We're just finding out that we're not that close of friends. And now we're going deeper. Okay, so this podcast can take a little bit
although
of a
I
turn.
did not go deep on the honeymoon.
Yeah, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't even get the first base on the honeymoon,
No.
bro. So, okay, did you know before your wedding day that night was like, did you know she had a bunch of trauma?
No, we knew she had went through a bunch of stuff. She had dealt with it to the best that she knew how to deal with it. Right? Like at that point now, by the time we got married, she had broken soul ties and went to altars and done all of that stuff.
She did a bunch of altar work.
She did a ton of altar work, which I think all played an important role. But it did not heal the emotional trauma of these moments when she's 13 years old.
Absolutely not.
Right? She's 16 and she's with a 24-year-old. And these backseat situations, there's a time where she remembers being in
Which your wife is good with you talking about this stuff.
Oh, yeah. We share with this.
I just want everyone to know.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is like what you guys do for a living.
Yeah.
So I didn't introduce you.
Yeah.
You guys
This is what we do.
A marriage sexuality ministry.
Yes.
Where this is like what you talk about. Okay.
So like one of her big moments was she remembers being in the back seat with a guy who's asking her to have oral sex. She's saying no. She goes, for whatever reason that night I decided I didn't want to do this anymore. She goes, I never liked giving all these guys oral sex.
Yeah.
But it just kind of became who I was. So I had to deliver, right? And she said she recounts, I sat there and watched the clock for 45 minutes. He gave me reasons and things and basically said, I need you to do this because you've already led me. Don't be a flirt. Don't, I've got blue balls, like all these things that he's using and to manipulate her into it. And finally she just gives in and does it. Because she's like, I felt like, what else? I got to do it to get out of this.
So traumatic.
And a lot of her scenarios were that, where it was, she said, I wasn't ever raped. I said yes. She wouldn't label any of the situations abuse necessarily, but what she does is culture pressure, social pressure, pressure from peer pressure, all of that stuff. And so we got into marriage and I would just touch her back and she'd tense up.
You're like, well, she wasn't doing that when you were dating.
No, because I wasn't asking her to do sexual things when we were dating.
That's so crazy. Like how our unconscious mind, right?
Yeah.
Like she wasn't even aware that was going to be her response.
At all. Once sex was on the table.
How far did you guys go just dating?
We kissed and touched.
Okay.
Never had oral sex, never had sex.
But when you touched, was she into it? And I'm not asking that
She
for
would
like weird reason.
Yeah. When we would kiss and make out and stuff, I was surprised at the passionate kissing that we led into, because that was even farther than I had never done that with anybody. So, we crossed our personal lines dating, easier to justify.
And you didn't see the trauma in there.
None.
She wasn't like, wow, I'm having this crazy, I'm afraid of you, I'm having this crazy experience.
No.
So then you get to your honeymoon night.
And now sex is on the table, oral sex is on the table, mutual masturbation's on the table, all of these things that are now possibilities. And at first it was physical pain for her. We actually did discover 4 years in, she had extra tissue in her vagina, and it caused sex to be incredibly painful.
Got it.
So once that was addressed, she had surgery to have that removed. Once that was done, she thought, I'm good.
Did you even try to have sex the first night?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we called our pastor, got on... Absolutely.
No way.
We called our pastor, Doug. I go, Doug, his wife is Gretchen. I'm like, put Gretchen on the phone. Sex isn't working. We're doing something wrong. Tell us what's going on.
No way.
And all four of us sat there and talked about what to figure out how to fix.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, we tried. And then we tried on the honeymoon a few more times.
How was that for you? I'm not saying I'm saying dude, your whole entire life.
Massive letdown, tons of disappointment. I think, trying to remember back 17 years ago, as far as in the honeymoon moment, I mean, definitely felt very angry, frustrated, and disappointed. And yet then trying to kind of guard my feelings because I don't want her to feel like she just ruined our honeymoon.
Was she crying?
Oh yeah, there was lots of tears. I mean, I would say the first 6 years of our marriage were failed sex attempts.
Wow.
I mean, we would try to have sex, it wouldn't work, and we wouldn't even try for another month.
No way.
Yeah. Like it was...
Were you guys talking about it?
With anybody that would listen. We talked, we were at a staff retreat.
I bet you guys are so...
You know me enough, Jay.
Yeah.
We're at a staff retreat, and we get done with the staff retreat, and we're new youth pastors on staff, right?
Gosh.
And we go to our senior pastor and his wife, because they seem like they have a great sex life. They're talking about it on stage all the time. So we were in this thing, and we're like, why don't we see if they'll go and maybe afterwards, can we just talk to them? Maybe they'll know what our problem is. So we're like, hey, do you could we talk? And they go, yeah, why don't we go out to dinner together? And they take us to P.F. Chang's. They're probably thinking we're like, how do we manage our money?
Yeah.
So we sit down at P.F. Chang's, and we're like, so we don't really have sex. It doesn't really seem to work. We can't figure it out. Can you guys tell us what to do? And they're like,
bro.
Well, the penis goes in the vagina. I don't even remember what the response really was, but they just were shocked.
So shocked.
And so we had talked with them. We had talked with, Doug and Gretchen, who had married us. We were really close with them, still are. Anybody that we could. We were like...
So it wasn't like this thing that you guys didn't talk about and then you visit it once every other month.
I would say we probably didn't do much talking the first year. We just kind of felt like, hey, this will work itself out.
Yeah.
She went to the doctor after the honeymoon. The doctor said, you should have had sex before marriage. Your vagina would be stretched out and it wouldn't hurt. So you just have to have a lot of sex now and you'll be fine.
Oh my gosh.
So we did then once we started to realize, oh, this is, I would say that we didn't realize even fully that it was emotional for Kate until after Caleb was born, when she had the tissue removed. Because then, so she basically just thought, the reason I feel triggered is because it's physically painful. Who would want physical pain?
Right.
Once the physical pain was removed and she had the same responses still. So we're talking 5 years in now.
Dang.
She's still tensing up. And she's like, well, I know it's not gonna hurt. Why am I tensing up? And so we started to unpack that. She goes, because I feel like you're gonna do and say whatever it takes to get me to have sex with you right now.
Even though, the craziest thing is that you guys have been together married 5 years or 6 years.
Dated for 3.5.
Dated for 3.5, and you'd never done that to her.
Right.
Gosh, I hate your wife. I'm kidding. I just
totally,
kidding.
And so we're like, okay, why do you think that? And she just started to realize, like, oh, this and this. And so then at first we tried talking to pastors, we tried talking to people and praying through it.
Because pastors have all the answers.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
There's so much pressure that we put on pastors,
it's
right?
Totally true.
We're like, my car's not working, call the pastor.
Yeah.
Having a hard time having sex with my wife, call the pastor.
Yeah.
My kids are sick, call the pastor.
Totally. Exactly right. So, we're trying to get help from where we know to get help. I would say that, you're talking now or 10 years ago, I would say that we hadn't yet adopted the belief that counseling was good for everybody.
Yeah.
I think there was still a bit of like
messed up people go to
that's
counseling.
for the messed up people, right? Yeah. And so we start to realize that we're talking to pastors, we're trying to be intimate, have sex. Most nights end in tears. She's crying, I'm angry, we're looking the other way on the bed, and we're falling asleep just trying to deal.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I'm talking
it's
the
so
lowest
crazy.
moment, the lowest period, which you're going to think in a minute I'll tell you what you'll think was the lowest period. But I would say the lowest point was I would say year 6 and 7, maybe 6 times those years. Maybe.
Golly.
Like, I don't know. I wasn't counting, but you know what I mean? Maximum 10 times in the year.
And never one time having an awesome experience.
Oh, never having an awesome experience, ever. It was Caitlin's gritting her teeth through it and figuring out how to manage it because she loves me enough to let me get off. And sex was basically about me getting off then at that point. And because I didn't come in with a porn addiction and an orgasm addiction and a dopamine serotonin addiction in that area, I was actually like, as frustrated as I was, I hadn't built this big, huge sexual appetite that had to be fulfilled.
Thank God.
Right? So, and then it got to the point though where, okay, the pain's gone. Maybe it had been 2 years now. I don't know. We've talked with everyone we can talk with. We've prayed and we're still there. And I just, and then she's now feeling like I'm ruining our marriage.
Yeah.
I'm you don't deserve this, this, you don't deserve this because you waited till you were married and you have to deal with me and, all these things. And I did my best to never make her feel that way.
Yeah.
Not that I was probably perfect at that all the time, right?
Well, you're feeling so disappointed and after 6 and tired.
Totally.
So it's like, how do you hide that?
It was tough. And so we get to the point one night where we tried to have sex, couldn't do it. Caitlin starts crying in the middle of it. She just does not want to do it. And we get, we start talking through it and fighting through it and, all of the things that went with it.
I'm just laughing because I'm like, that's just the best night, right?
I'm literally picturing the bedroom we were in too, like that house that we lived in.
Midway into sex and you're in a fight and your wife's crying. It's like, is there anything worse on the planet than that?
No. And the worst part is you thinking, well, she's crying. Am I horrible if I just finish before we actually work through this? The fact that thought even comes into my mind is the worst thing on the planet.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh, I'm a monster. Yeah. What's wrong with me? I'm not human.
Do we have to edit that?
You don't have to for me, but
yeah, I'm kidding.
So that night where it kind of, I would say was probably ended up being the best night of our life.
Wow.
Because we hurt through it, we cried through it, we probably yelled through it. I don't remember all of that was entailed. But what it really did to the marriage is it made her feel like the inferior part of the marriage because she could not give me what I was able to give her what she wanted.
Yeah.
She was not able to give me what I wanted, which caused her to constantly feel like
so much shame.
The brokenness is because of me. Yeah. All of this stuff. She was never fully like who she is today is not even close to who she was then. And the narrative of you have to wish you were with someone else. You have how could you want to be with me? Da 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 da. And it got to a point where once the emotions had subsided a bit, I go, Caitlin, I don't have some time frame that I want to be having great sex by. But what I do want to know is that we're working on it and you're working on it. Like, I want to know we're not going to be stuck here.
Right.
I go, if we're going to be stuck here forever, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
If you will get help and we will get help. I'll go to counseling. If we'll like just at least take a step in that direction, that gives me enough hope to say, okay, let's keep going. I don't regret marrying you. I don't wish it was someone else.
Right.
I'm good in that sense. And so that led us to go to counseling. So we get into counseling. We both go to the first session.
Like a sex therapist?
She was a marriage therapist. I only saw her the first time, and then Kate saw her for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly if she was a sex therapist, but Caitlin, when she tells a story, she'll say, after I went to bed that night, she got online and looked up Christian sex therapists. Like, she's like, okay, I've got to solve this. So we go to the counselor first time, and it's both of us, and we're talking through everything, and she comes to the couple conclusions. She says, I don't know that I need to meet with both of you. I think I can just work through this with Caitlin. I'll let you, will you come back if I need you? I'm like, yeah, of course. And then she says, for the next couple weeks, while we are resetting, can you guys not be intimate? I'm like,
easy.
We're not intimate anyways.
Done.
So,
Done.
Yeah. That couple weeks ended up being 18 months, though.
No way.
So for a year and a half, we didn't even attempt intimacy.
Holy smokes.
In any way, shape, or form.
No.
Yeah.
Not just intercourse. You didn't do anything.
Nothing.
Bro.
Because we had, basically what we had done.
You may be the strongest man I know on the planet.
I think it's you, physically. I've seen some things you've accomplished, but... even before that time, we found things that we did that weren't sex.
Yeah.
It wasn't oral sex because that was a big trigger for her. That I would it would essentially, it was me getting off.
Yeah, for sure.
That's just the reality. There's no intimacy, but it was at least was satisfying the bit of urge that I had. But not even that. Even got to the point in that year and a half where our kissing was very minimal because I'm like,
who wants to turn that engine on?
I don't want your lips on my lips. I can't handle that. There's no way we're kissing because,
just the thought of hugging you, I'm done.
Yes, exactly. I can't see you in the bathroom. I need you fully, when you get out of the shower, you dress quick. So we went through that year and a half, and that was honestly what did it. She went through we had a really phenomenal counselor. Caitlin went through a thing called EMDR.
Yep.
That really helped unlock the trauma. Yep. She diagnosed her with PTSD.
Yep.
So those experiences, you had PTSD,
yep.
which we never even would have thought to associate that.
Absolutely.
Right? You think war or car accident, stuff like that.
Yep.
18 months gets over, and we basically redid a honeymoon. But this time we didn't go into the honeymoon with the expectation of sex.
You didn't put a ton of pressure on her. It's been 18 months and I spent all this money on counseling. We better get a result tonight.
No, I figured we just spent 18 months and all this money on counseling. Dude. I don't want to screw it up again. There's zero pressure. Take as long as you need.
Take your time.
And so we lived in Sacramento. We went over to Napa. It was only a few days. It wasn't a full honeymoon, but by the end of it, we ended up having sex. And then from then on,
was that first time back? Was it wow, that was different?
It was, it was definitely different.
Because she was engaged or something.
She was engaged. We got done, and she goes, I didn't feel triggered. My brain didn't go back to old situations.
Wow.
She's like, it's gone and it's never come back. So
Amazing.
We've been married for 17 years. That was probably year 8. Okay. Now, for the next 3 years, we're having sex way more frequently, weekly.
Yeah.
And she's not feeling triggered. She's not feeling pain, but she's not having orgasms. She's not enjoying it at all.
Right.
She didn't have her first orgasm till year 11.
Right. Which is an issue for a lot of women.
Yeah, which is very, very common. And that adds what's wrong with me as the man, and so then there's layers to that. And then it was wild. She felt like the Lord told her to write a book. She committed to write a book. We don't know that it was this, but the next time we had sex, she had an orgasm. She's had one almost every time since. It's
crazy.
It was almost that's how she correlates it, but yeah.
What's okay. Obviously this podcast took a little bit of a turn, but not even for the good, right? We're talking about, You have to be able to navigate through hard times to get to good times. I mean, that is how we started.
Yep.
Or you will never get to the good times of marriage.
Yeah, that's right.
Because this misconception is that like good things in life are going to come to me.
Yep.
They're not going to come to you. You're going to set yourself up. You're going to steward them. It's just crazy how much you guys had to work to get to a place of health. And just like, I mean, you're 11 years in and finally she experiences like an orgasm which isn't like, I'm not saying like, oh, that's the pinnacle.
Yep.
But like where you both are experiencing the same thing.
Right. It changes the way that you engage with it. Right.
Totally.
Like I would say before that, it was easy. Well, you know, once she got through counseling, it was easy for me to feel intimately connected to her in lovemaking. I don't know that I think it was for her in the form of like, for me, like I'm happy to do something for her that she wants done that I don't necessarily want to do because I love her.
Yeah.
I think it probably created intimacy for her in that sense.
Yeah.
But it was nothing compared to the intimacy that we have now in it.
Right. And the excitement.
For both of us.
Yeah. That shared joy. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
So when I look back, and to bring it back to the topic of, how do we prepare ourselves and navigate for challenging things? One of the things that we have always done that I will give total credit to Caitlin for, she refuses to allow us to go to sleep until we have not only worked through an issue, but that we've had 10 minutes of happy time.
No way.
Which early on drove me nuts.
Yeah, so
because she wouldn't even bring crap up till like 11 p.m.
Right.
And I'm like, why? If this is such a big deal,
why didn't we start at 3?
Why didn't we start when we got home from work? Why are we talking about this at 11 p.m.? Because now it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be in the office tomorrow at 9 a.m.
Yeah. What's happening?
Why?
Yeah.
And now when I look back, I would say that was probably one of the best tools for us.
Yeah.
Because by knowing you're not going to get out of this conversation until not only we've resolved it, but you also have moved into you've transitioned from just resolution to I love you, I want to be with you, and these strong positive feelings towards each other. What it did is it caused both of us to commit to creating healthy communication practices. If I don't want to be up till 3 a.m., do you know what I'm doing at 8?
Right.
Hey, babe, anything you want to talk about tonight?
Dude, totally.
Right?
You're checking in.
I'm checking in. Yeah. I'm intentionally communicating when I'm not sensing because there'd be nights I felt hijacked. Like I was so disconnected. Yeah. She's got this big, massive thing. And I'm like, where did that come from? Yeah. Like it's her fault that I wasn't paying enough attention to know that it's that big of a deal to her. Right. And so I would say that's probably the thing that, I don't want to say saved our marriage because I don't feel like even in that time our marriage was ever in danger. But that's the thing that was our saving grace, our strength was, hey, we're not going to go to sleep angry ever. And if that means we have to learn the habit of connecting sooner and not watching The Office after dinner, but talking and connecting, then that's what we're going to do so that we don't get to this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I laugh because of the 10 minutes of happy time, right?
Oh, man.
God dang. It's one thing to resolve the conflict and be like on neutral ground, like, hey, I'm glad we got here.
I'm going to bed though.
But the 10 minutes of happy time.
And then she requires 10 minutes of happy time. Yeah.
What a beast. She's awesome.
She is a beast. And I would say the older we've got, the more mature we've gotten, the less time those conversations take.
Yeah.
A conversation that took 4 hours 15 years ago takes 30 minutes now.
It's true. And that's the real benefit, right? To making that agreement that you stick with.
Yeah.
Is like, if you know that you're going to have to do that, that's the only pathway forward that you guys have both agreed on.
Yeah.
Then you just suck it up and you do it, as opposed to.
And you find healthier ways to do it.
Yeah, you do. Gaining those tools. I think that for most people in marriage, there's a real pull to escape.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to one of the first comments that we talked about. Like, people don't fall out of love, but they get so disconnected that not only do I not feel anything for you, I feel negative about you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want what we had before.
Totally.
It's so unappealing. And we're so disconnected that I can't even remember what we're disconnected about.
Yep.
We're just really disconnected.
Oh yeah, well, I felt there was seasons that we were there 100%.
Yeah. And so I think, for guys, for sure, because mostly it's guys listening to this podcast. A lot of women listen to it too. But the pull to escape, the pull to like, I know for me, and I think I could speak for every guy, almost every guy, when you don't feel good at something, you don't want to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I just don't even want
Yep.
to try. I would rather, I'll stay at work till I'm really busy. Like I'm finding things to do so I don't have to come home.
Oh, it's so true, Jay.
And address this chaos that I don't know how to fix. And man, that just compounds the problems, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of going, hey, I feel like a poser. I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm really dreading coming home. We just don't. We find reasons to not, or we find reasons to avoid the stuff that we're going in. And man,
it's true.
Yeah, it just sinks us so fast. And once you get into that mode, I think guys have to look at this as a warning sign, right? Like when you start avoiding things in your life, especially in your marriage, when you start avoiding that should be a red flag to you.
Absolutely. Time does not heal all wounds. Time only heals the wounds that have been sanitized.
Bro, it's true. Yeah,
otherwise
time
they
makes
turn into gangrene.
It makes you forget why you are the way that you are.
Yeah.
In time. It's just like, I can't even. So I think that guys should like evaluate their life, evaluate their marriage, and go like, man, am I avoiding a bunch of stuff here?
Have I settled for something I shouldn't settle for?
Yeah.
Have I avoided something I shouldn't be avoiding?
Yeah. I'd love to talk about expanding your carrying capacity, because one of the things that we were talking about earlier is one of the most challenging things in life often isn't what you're going through. It's what others are going through around you that you have to carry.
Totally.
And I think it's Ephesians 6 that talks about carrying one another's burdens, right? Like we have our own load to carry, but then we have a burden. And when you look at the definition of a burden, that definition of a burden is something that if carried alone would be damaging. And we know that no person was ever meant to live alone, right? And that's like a whole nother podcast about loneliness and how people are so lonely right now. But as a dad, if I just think about myself right now, I have 5 kids and a wife. So as a dad.
Has that gotten normal when you say I have 5 kids?
No, not yet.
Because it still feels like it slaps me in the face.
I know.
And it's not me, it's you.
Yeah, I have a 23-year-old, 21-year-old, 18-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 10-month-old.
So for those that want to just experience great joy, go back and find the Instagram video of Christmas, your dad reading the Christmas story to Edie. Yeah. I've watched it like 5 times.
It's amazing.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's on Instagram. It'll change your life.
And my kids are incredible. But the reality is like, man, if it was just me, if this was just if it's just single, I look at single guys and I'm like, dude, you don't have any problems, which they do. But you know what I'm saying? It's like when a single person tells you, gosh, I'm exhausted.
Oh my goodness.
You're like,
bro, we were youth pastors and we had young adults and we'd come in, hey, how you doing on a Sunday morning? Oh, I'm so tired. I would just want to punch him in the face.
Or they say, I'm so busy.
You've never been tired or busy. Seriously.
Like, what is wrong with you? But part of what happens is we grow our capacity as humans. Like we don't have this fixed capacity. You find out in marriage, right? That
unless you're Lauren, you get tossed into capacity.
Yeah, you get tossed in. But you find out that if I want to do more, I have to manage more. I have to be willing to manage more. And some of that's time management, but a lot of that is emotional and mental capacity.
Yeah.
And there are some real challenges and real secrets to growing your capacity. And I think that it's worth talking about, because otherwise life just feels, you feel like you're fixed and this is all that you can do. And if you're not careful, you don't think that you can do hard things.
Yep.
And so you won't want to get married, or you won't want to have kids.
It's true.
right? I know a lot of young people that are like, I don't know that we're going to have kids. I'm like, why are you not going to have kids? Well, they're just so hard.
Yep.
I'm like, well, how are you going to have anything enjoyable in your life? Long lasting enjoyable if you don't have kids. And
Yep.
I'm not saying that you can't. I'm saying as a married couple, like,
It's true.
if you don't have kids, what's next? What are
Yeah.
you going to build? Because you have to put time, effort, energy, suffering into
100%.
something to really enjoy that. But I want to just kind of talk through like how to grow your capacity.
Yeah.
And because I think that's a big deal for people.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, the advice I would give to people on this is intentionally choose the harder thing on a choice. Like just the next time. The next time that you have to decide between two things, pick the harder one. Just for the sake of teaching yourself that you can accomplish hard things that you don't think you can accomplish. So like when we got married, I felt like I knew nothing about carpentry, fixing things.
Yeah.
Like my dad's a builder, her dad's a builder, they're both contractors, and I never had fixed anything in my life.
That's not intimidating.
Yeah. Oh, right. Totally. Like her dad builds $1 million homes. My dad's a real estate and contracting genius. He's built his own company. Like so we get into our first house, and this little piece of trim falls off the cabinet, and she's like, "Hey, can you fix this?" I'm like, "I don't know how to fix things.
I'm incompetent.
Yeah, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
We have to wait till one of our dads come." And so this wood piece of trim,
Dude.
like the crown molding on the top of the cabinet, just sits on I just put it up on the cabinet, and we're just waiting for one of the dads to come whenever they were going to come, right? And so we're youth pastors at this time, and we decided we wanted to renovate our youth room. But we had a very limited budget to do so. So we had gotten enough money to buy all the flooring. One of the leaders in the youth group, her dad was a flooring guy. So I asked him, "Hey, would you come over and show us how to do the flooring?" It's like a pastor ask. You know what the pastor asks?
No, for sure.
What was I really doing when I was asking him to come over and show me how to do it?
You were asking him to do it.
I wanted him to say, "I'll just do it for you."
Yeah.
So he comes over, takes 2 hours, literally does what I ask, shows me how to do it, and says, "Have a good one." And he walks out the door. And so you know what I did?
You figured it out.
I installed the entire floor in our youth room.
Yeah.
And I got done. It was the first any type of anything like that I'd ever done. And I had defined myself as I don't do this stuff.
Yeah.
And I got done, and I don't remember a time feeling more like,
Proud of yourself.
oh man, just like, that was better than any sermon I had preached that far in my life, right? And I'm exhausted. It took me a week. You know, I had some help. I got home, and I'm exhausted. I sit down to eat, and I'm feeling just like the man. And I look up at the piece of trim sitting on the cupboard. And I go, literally, it's crazy what doing the hard thing once does. Because I look up at it, and I go, I could fix that. Didn't even think twice.
Yep.
I went to the store, bought the tiny little nails that you can't see with the little thing that you bang it in, like stuff the stuff I wouldn't even have known to look for before, right? That all of a sudden I'm like, oh, surely they make something for that.
Yeah.
I just installed the floor. I could fix a piece of trim. And now, 12 years later, I have built an entire in-law quarters. I've installed multiple floors. I've done drywall. I've done insulation. I've remodeled a bathroom.
Yeah. And more importantly, it doesn't matter if you have the skill set or not. What you learned is that you can learn.
I learned that I can learn.
And you learn how to learn, yeah.
And I did one hard thing, and it taught me, wait a sec, I could expand my capacity in this. I could do the next hard thing and the next hard thing. Now, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's helping someone, you're intentionally choosing, I'm going to do the thing that's not fun so I can teach myself what I'm capable of.
Man, and that's so important, right? Like, I can do hard things is that message, being able to say that to yourself opens up a whole world of possibilities. The belief that you can, right? That you can handle it, and not necessarily even on your own. Because I think that that's one of the big misconceptions.
Absolutely.
Is that you can do this on your own. You can't.
No.
You don't have what it takes to do it on your own. Like, you couldn't fix your sex life on your own.
No.
And I mean, that's, and I'm not going to go down that road, but I love that. Yeah, I think it's so true. Another piece to growing your capacity, which it goes along with the I can do hard things, to me is find the expert.
Yep.
So, man, so many times in my life I'll just talk about like in counseling.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people come in with issues that they've had for so long, and they're super discouraged, and we'll spend maybe 2 appointments like working through it, brainstorming it, and their whole entire outlook has changed.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why didn't you come in friggin' 5 years ago?
Totally.
Why did you just carry that?
Absolutely.
Your whole entire life, you carried this.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me. Like I had OCD, and I've talked about that on this podcast. And I sat down with a friend of mine. Her name's Margaret Nagib, which I've also had on the podcast.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, people should go back and listen
Margaret.
to her. And I was explaining to her this anxiety, this crazy amount of anxiety that I have. And she goes, oh, Jay, people with OCD have that. Like, that's what it sounds like. And she's like, I'm not saying that you have OCD, right? Like, and this goes with what we're talking about. My capacity to deal with anxiety was so low that even the thought of having anxiety would throw me over the edge.
Totally.
Right? Like I had, if my capacity could be an ocean, I had a little puddle.
Yeah.
A little water puddle.
Totally.
That's it for anxiety. As soon as she goes, hey, I'm going to give you 3 tools and 3 tips. The 3 R's: recognize, relabel, and refocus. And I learned how to do those.
Yep.
My capacity for dealing with anxiety has like 1,000x.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Because I found somebody who's an expert in that area.
Yep.
And I was able to like, man, if I want to have a happy, joy-filled, peace-filled life, I can't avoid the anxiety that I feel.
Yep.
I actually have to get tools. And if I'm going to get tools, then I have to find somebody that has those tools, and I'm going to go get those.
Yep.
Who are people going to, right? Like, who are you going? What are the problems that you have in your life, and who's helping you solve those?
Yep. Well, and I think we're also evaluating like which ones can I invite someone into. So, the example I would give, I mean, you know this, we just came out of another tough season, even though, what we talked about, in our sex life that Kate and I shared a ton.
Yeah.
The season that we just came out of, I would actually probably label as the hardest 3 or 4 month period that we've went through. Her dad was very sick. Her and I were taking turns flying back to take care of him.
His cancer, right?
His cancer, and then he got a staph infection, and he needed he needed to be fed through a feeding tube and needed daily help, and there was just a lot, so we were both going back and forth, and I love her dad. I mean, we both want to do it. Like, I love her dad. She obviously loves her dad. It wasn't like it was that burden in that sense, but it's you're carrying a very, very big life or death situation for someone else.
Right.
In the middle of this season, we have an older house here in Reading. We find out the plumbing's went bad, and we're going to spend $7,000 overnight to get the plumbing fixed. Otherwise, we can't use our drains, our toilets, anything.
Wasn't water pouring underneath your guest
like
house?
4 or 5 different places. It's just coming through the.
Oh my gosh.
That was on like one of the windows that I was home. That was discovered. Then the washer breaks. Then the refrigerator breaks. Like, you're just like
Stuff stacking up.
All in the same. I mean, we had a $20,000 month.
Golly.
Yeah, we had just gotten a pretty good chunk of money that we weren't expecting, and we're like, we're gonna pay off our cars. I pay off the first car, and then everything breaks. Like, we're not paying off our cars.
Yeah,
we paid off one. Which we're
gonna fix plumbing. That's exciting,
right? Like, it was there. Like, where I'm not complaining, but I am acknowledging that sucked.
Yeah.
Well, her dad couldn't be helped by anybody else. That was a burden that we were carrying with them for them. I couldn't call you and say, hey, you want to fly to Buffalo and help out Kate's dad? Like,
no, I don't.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, we had a number of stuff like that. I'm not going to call my dad and say, hey, will you pay for my plumbing? Like, those are things. But then as we're moving through this stuff, we have a moment with one of my kids, which I'm not going to give a ton of details to protect him. You obviously know about this. And he said something one morning, and it was a big deal, and it felt like a really big deal.
He was in a bunch of pain.
He's in a bunch of pain, and we're like, we need help. And I, in the middle of the conversation, text you, hey, I was supposed to be meeting with you anyways. First of all, I'm not going to make it to the meeting.
Canceled the meeting.
Second of all, I might need you in a minute.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably that 3-month season is a really good depiction of it. Because as a man, I am called to bear other people's burdens.
Yeah.
My wife needed me to help with her family. I'm happy to do it. I'm glad that I was able to. I had to take care of my family and the needs at home. And then we got to something where I'm like, okay, this is something I can get help from. And you know what? I'm not going to wait a week, a month, 6 months. Hey, Jake, can you come over in an hour?
Yeah.
Because it felt like, number one, my capacity I was already maxed. And then for it to be my kid, who it's so different when it's your kids because there's so much more emotion. It's unlosable.
Yeah.
I can lose the plumbing.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose,
Yeah.
but I can lose. I can't. I got to win this.
Yeah.
So I think for me, when you're asking for help is being aware, like, what are the things that it's your God-given calling to carry? And then what are the things that you better call for help? And the quicker you do, the better the outcome is.
Yeah.
I think that's the reality you're right. People wait too long. And the sooner you get triaged there a lot of times, the better and the quicker and the more complete the healing process is.
You know what's been so cool in this past couple years is this past couple years, I look at my life, and one of the things that's allowed me to do more is I have way more qualified friends in my life. And
totally.
Part of that's just age, but part of that has been intentional. Like, this guy, I need somebody in my life that can help me, work through business stuff. I need somebody in my life that can help me do some planning. I need somebody in my life that can help me in stewarding.
While you're in a sprinkler system.
Yeah. I called you over to help me do that. But that has been so massive. And when I start to look at my life, right? Like, if I was to go, I oversee the Transformation Center, which is our counseling department at Bethel. I oversee our men's ministry, and you help me with that together. I oversee BraveCo, of course.
5 children.
Yeah. The kids. And then when I start to look into those different worlds, I have these other guys and experts that are in that world that are helping me do it. Yeah. I'm not doing I would almost say there's no part of my life that I'm doing it on my own.
But asking for help is so hard.
So hard.
Like that, even that morning when I'm like, I knew I needed help.
Yeah.
But you're just like, oh, this is vulnerable. This is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Why can't I manage this on my, like, you have all of this man stuff that prevents you from wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Man, it's so critical to get over that.
Yeah. And it's true.
So important to get over that thing that makes us feel like we're supposed to solve all of it. Because you end up my kids would then be confined to my weaknesses.
Yeah.
Like my son wouldn't.
It's so true.
Be on the path that he's on right now had we not ask for help quickly.
Yeah. It's so true that our ego is, it's one of the things that just kills us from really moving forward.
I would say it's a strength of yours. Like what you're saying, I would describe you that way. I mean, to a T. Like, I feel like you are so good at intentionally saying, hey, I'm a man and I will carry my stuff, but I'd rather do it together because we'll be way more effective.
I learned it from my dad. I watched my dad do that so much growing up, and I watched him help a lot of people too in the church. We were in a really small church growing up, and so we were there late, cleaning up, even if it was the Super Bowl, right? Like, we're there to help clean up after the service, and then we're constantly going over other people's houses and helping fix cars or helping out. But my dad, taught me like that I don't have to know everything and do everything and be everything.
Yeah.
And as much as like that's been taught to me, it's still hard.
Yeah.
It's not super easy. But on the flip side of that, it's part of how you also experience real joy in a relationship.
Absolutely.
Like, when you called me or text me, hey bro, I'm in a bind, can you come? Like, I want to do nothing more than come. I want to come in there and I want to sit down with one of your family member who is in that. And I want to lend all my strength to that.
Totally.
And have a great result. and then make sure that like, are we still on track? And for me, I mean, being a counselor, working in this world forever, I feel like I have the privilege of helping my friends.
Yeah, totally.
And a lot of people look at it and go like, oh, you don't help your friends out, do you? Like, because it's like too vulnerable for them. And I'm like, well, what else is a friend for?
Yeah, totally.
I've gained all this knowledge and wisdom that I just gained, right, throughout the years. And if I can't use that on the people that I love the most,
why have it?
How are we even friends?
Totally.
That wouldn't make any sense.
I agree. Like, it's funny because like I've become handy enough with stuff that I can, I'm not saying I could charge. I wouldn't even get to that point, but I've had people offer to pay me before. I'm like, no thanks. Like I wouldn't do it for somebody for money. But when a friend asks me to, I'm like, oh yeah. Like I would love to come over and help you with that. I do know how to do that. Yeah. I'd be pumped to help, like the day that we did your sprinklers. Yeah. Like I actually was super excited. I got done. I went home. Kate's like, how was it? It was awesome. I was super glad to be able to use some knowledge that I've gained to help Jay. Like it is awesome how that feeling is there.
It's so true. So every time you add somebody to your life that's an expert, you grow your capacity, the actual carrying capacity of what you can accomplish. And when you look at, I used to think like, man, great leaders have this crazy ability to do everything. And when you start to look at it, it's like, no, administrators make the world go round.
That's right.
But great leaders put those administrators in place, right? Yeah. And great leaders help to lead. Good. And when you start to really look at it, like what makes, there's no one person that's like so incredible that they just do everything. Yep. They look and assess what areas of their life are they good at? What areas do they need help at? What areas are they avoiding? And they manage it according. Yeah, and they get help in those areas. And man, guys, if we would just literally sit down and assess our lives, what is the state of the union? Yeah. In my life, in my marriage, my finances, my emotions, and then start to go like, okay, what do I need to do? So the other way to expand your carrying capacity is to offload stuff that's slowing you down. Mm-hmm. And I would say that like with your wife,
really good,
right? Like your wife had all this trauma. Like that trauma is not doing her any good. Yeah. It's not helping her in any way. And at one point, like it was protecting her, probably at some point, like a self-protection from being taken advantage of, whatever. That trauma is not serving any purpose in her life. So now she's got to go to counseling to like offload that baggage so that there's room for other stuff. And again, like secret sin is one of those. Mm-hmm. If you're living with secrets, right? If you're looking at porn and you're not telling anybody, those are places in your life that's just simply taking up space and it's wearing you out because you're carrying it constantly. Yeah. It could be a negative self-view, right? Like your low self-esteem will lower your capacity so fast because you're constantly telling yourself you can't do this. You're not good enough. It's that you don't have any confidence. Yeah. So although you could do more, totally, you'll never ever even tap into it. You'll never even get close to tapping into your capacity.
Absolutely.
Like I honestly think if people would stop and just look at like, am I carrying extra baggage right now? Yep. And if I am, what do I need to go do to offload that?
Yeah, it's huge.
Because I think that most people's energy and efforts are used not in what they're actually doing, but what's actually happened to them through their life. The stress, the pressure, the internal, just the internal battles. So many people are carrying so much baggage that takes up most of their bandwidth.
It's true.
You know, it's like having, my dad would be able to explain this way better than I can. But it's like having a drain on your battery. It's like leaving the light on in your car or having a short, right? I remember my dad is a mechanic, so people would bring their car into him and they'd be like, the battery's bad. My car won't start, and he'd be like, well, it's not actually your battery's fault. You have this thing over here that has a short that's draining the battery.
Draining the power.
It's draining the power. Yeah. It's not, you don't actually have a battery problem. Yeah. You don't have a capacity problem. What you have is this thing that's sucking it dry. That's right.
And you spend all your emotional and mental time on damage control rather than building for the future, rather than building and living from victory. You're like, oh, I gotta deal with this, and this thing's pulling you back. Well, You can't build the foundation of a castle on that. Right?
No, you can't. I think the other thing too is like bitterness and unforgiveness.
Oh, golly.
Want to talk about a drain on your capacity is have a battle in your mind unconsciously all day long.
Yep.
Which you can have unforgiveness towards yourself.
That's true.
And bitterness towards yourself, right?
And towards people. And it doesn't even have to be a big thing.
No.
It's crazy how little of a thing will creep in and keep us bound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again is back to, listen, if you could have fixed that your own, you probably would have already.
Yeah, that's right.
So who do you need to reach out to go and actually begin to address that? And
yep.
Man.
Well, there you go, gentlemen.
Yeah. I just get excited because if we're circling back, like there's this idea of, so Angela Duick, she talks about being gritty, right? In people with grit, people who are gritty, people who have the ability to withstand pressure. Those people go further in life, right? Those people accomplish more than the guy who doesn't have any grit. And she talks about like one of the differences between people who are like gritty and somebody who's not is people who are gritty have this growth mindset.
Yep.
They have this belief that I'm not fixed. I'm not stuck. This isn't all of who I am.
Yeah.
And people who have a fixed mindset, right? Like, this is who I am. Oh, I am who I am. That becomes this limiter in your life, and you will never grow beyond that capacity.
Absolutely.
And so I think, like, man, guys, where you're at today, if your marriage is amazing or if it sucks, like, you can go to another level.
That's right.
And just because you're at a place of comfort, don't stop there.
Yeah.
What's keeping you from a place of greatness or excellence is probably doing the hard thing, like Cole talked about in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Right? Like, take on a harder task, or create a better, more structured routine.
That's right. It's good.
You know, work out every day or cut out sugar, like
cut out sugar.
Yeah.
That's right. With Jason's voice in the back of my head.
Do the things that you're going to be really proud of. And at the end of the day, you know, a couple years, 11 years into your marriage, you can look back and go, wow, I'm really proud of where we're at.
But I don't want to stay here.
But you don't want to.
What I hear you saying right now is at one point I was having sex 6 times a year.
Yeah.
You know, now we're a few times a week. What I'm hearing you say is I should be shooting for daily.
Daily.
That's what I feel like you're saying to me right now.
Yeah, hourly.
I'm going to see if Caitlin will buy into this new vision.
She might. Guys, hope that was helpful for you this week. Yeah, go look at the state of the union of your life. Take a look at it. Check out where it's at and ask yourself, what do you need to do to really grow your capacity as a man and quit avoiding pain and bring other guys into your life? Cool. Does that work?
The knife or the advice?
The advice.
Both work, yes.
Awesome. Guys, stay brave. Have a good week. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the BraveCo podcast. If you like this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, leave us a great comment. And if you like this episode in particular, share it with your friends and family. That helps us to spread the word. Guys, stay brave. We'll see you next week.